This is a block style K. I'm marking out some of the blue border that goes around the K itself. Marking the first piece out so I can get them all the same. I'll be putting it on my glass strip maker here in a second. This makes life much easier than doing it by hand with a ruler. But use what you got. This is some of the clear border also. And I'm using all different sizes of pieces, using kind of what I have left over that I can use. Makes it easier if you have a lot of stuff laying around. No sense in cutting a full piece when you just need little pieces like this. And people think glass is, how in the world can anybody cut glass? It's hard. It really is not as hard as it looks. Or let me rephrase that. It's not as hard as it seems. Yes, you're going to cut yourself. Yes, you're going to scrape yourself. You know, inherent with glass and sharp edges. Just take your time. I suggest if you're just starting out, you won't have all of the fancy tools that I do. But I can do this with a glass cutter. It just makes life lots easier when you have things to do in repetition. I'm using a Toyo oiled glass cutter for this. It's got an oil reservoir, so it keeps the glass cutter head evenly oiled to make the glass cutting a little bit easier. And if you're just starting out, it is what it is. You're going to break pieces of glass. I still break pieces of glass. Now, I wanted to make the K out of all one piece. So I have a lot of these longer, big pieces. After you score it, they're real easy to go where the score is. Just be gentle, lift it up an inch, and just pop it off. And you'll see me do that here also. And these are the corner beads. I could have used beveled glass, but who I'm making this for, there's reasons behind all the colors. Back to making strips out of clear glass. All the clear glass was either crackle glass or chip glass. This is chip glass. The blue and the gray was a cathedral type glass. Now this is my ring saw. The reason why I can make inside cuts. It's real difficult, if not impossible, to make a block style like this, making the interior cuts. And if you're just starting out and you don't have this, You can certainly cut the K into different sections so you don't have to have a ring saw. Nice picture of my shoulder here. I'm gonna speed it up a little bit. That's about 5 times speed here. You always take your time. Of course, things happen no matter if you take your time or not. It's inherent when working with tools and breakable things. I didn't realize how close this came to me until I watched the video footage. That is a piece of the ring saw blade that missed me by about 2 inches. The blade is a piece of wire with diamond attached to it. The tension arm down here is what caused the problem. It broke, which forced the saw into a bind and it came flying out. And yes, after I watched the footage, yeah, kids, wear your eye protection. Now, this is about 10 days later. I ordered the necessary parts to fix it. But there again, just go slow. Of course, if you have a ring saw, you probably know to go slow. I sped it up just a little bit here. I think I'm at 5 times at this point. Now I'm just grinding off the edges that I didn't cut with the ring saw, because the ring saw grinds and cuts at the same time, so you don't have any sharp edges. And you have a nice flat surface to put the coil, or sorry, to put the foil on. And yes, I forgot to turn my stereo off when I started recording again. I do this with all of the pieces. You don't have to, but there again, it gives it a nice flat surface for the foil to stick to. And I'll wash all the pieces before I start. Now you just go around and grind where you need to. Everything should fit pretty close together. Now the inside pieces I leave extra room because the foil, you have to figure every piece is going to be doubled up in between. So you have to leave a little extra gap there. Sometimes I guess wrong and leave too big a gap and have to cut another piece. But it's grind, wipe off, check with the rest of the panel, rinse and repeat. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And it's not as loud as it seems in here. Only problem is where I had my camera at that point was picking up the vibration from the grinder. Now on to foiling. I've got automatic foilers. I just this is how I learned to do it. So it's pretty sad, but I keep going back to it. Now this is after I've cleaned all the glass. All the glass got washed with soap and water to get all of the residues, get all of the oils, get everything off the glass that you can get off. The foil likes a nice flat surface to stick to. A clean flat surface. So it's a step that you need to take and need to make time for because it really does make a difference in the end. And I just run my finger on the edge to kind of seal it down, and I'll come back and burnish it. I got a little burnishing tool right there on the left side of the screen I'll pick up. Now I'll do all the edges first just to make sure that they're flattened and set to the edges. Then I'll come back to the flats and I'll do the same thing with the flats. In the corners, yeah, I always push the corners first. And you have to do that on the edges and both sides. Now the automatic foilers, they do it all in one shot. So you've got a little rubber guide that you put on the edge and then you just run it around. But I've always had issues with them. If you're doing a lot of pieces, it does save a lot of time. But I don't do many pieces at a time anymore. So this is just kind of I'm not going to say hobby. It's something that I had gotten into. I don't make as many panels as I used to. I like doing this, so this is kind of relaxing for me. Same thing. You always check the fit as you're going around. Rinse and repeat. That K took me a long time to do. Now I'm going to square it up to make sure that everything, whenever I go to tack it, that it is where I want it and it's in a square position. These are just horseshoe nails. I always try to put a square on the side that doesn't have a square edge. And that way, you know, if the panel's small enough, you can put one up at the top too. That way all four corners have a square to it. I didn't think it was necessary to try to put another one up on the top. But all of your foiled edges should be, it should almost look like a finished product before you even start tacking and soldering it. The shoe nails keep the horseshoe nails keep everything tight together. Now I'm just going to take some flux. I'm doing I'm hitting the front side first with just tacks. And what I'll do, I'll hit all the corners and somewhere in the middle of each joint and each line and each run. So whenever I go to flip it over to do the back side, it doesn't fall apart on you. Now there's other ways of doing this. You can put another piece of wood on the backside and flip it over and try to do it that way, but it's just so much easier to do it this way. Now, on the outset, I should have changed my tip. It was I was just too into it to let it cool off and then pull it off and then put a new tip on. But I did fight with this one pretty much throughout the whole soldering process. I should have just replaced the tip and been done with it. Because I fought with this tip more than I should have. This should have been so fast, and each each tack joint was a problem. I'm gonna do some long runs. Now this is the backside. And there again, I should have just stopped and replaced the tip. It would have been lots faster for me because the tip kept freezing on me. And what freezing means is that the tip gets too cold for it to really make everything flow nicely from the solder. But I was stubborn at this point, and I guess I told myself that I'm going to do it with this tip no matter what. Now, after I had gotten done and the iron cooled off, I did replace the tip. And I think it was a number of things the reason why I didn't just change it. Because the ring saw, I couldn't finish the K, and there was kind of a time constraint for me when I was making this. And they said it was supposed to be here in 2 days, and it took them 10 days to get it to me. And it'd be different if it came from anywhere else, but it was from Ohio, and it took them 10 days to ship it here. Needless to say, I was not well pleased with the company. Yeah, I was having issues with this. Normally, this is a Weller 100-watt soldering iron, and the 6040 solder that I use doesn't normally act like this. There again, the tip was freezing up, and it's I've had that tip on there for a long time, so it was definitely time to change. Speed it up here a little bit again. There again, it's fill the line, make it rounded on top. Now you'll see me wipe it off a lot. You don't want the flux to sit on top of the glass and get underneath the adhesive, because the flux is an acid, so it does degrade the adhesive on the foil if you don't get it off. And what I'll do afterwards is I will take the panel and I will wash it again with soap and water, just to deactivate, kind of deactivate the acid. And then a cleaning with Windex. I like using the vinegar Windex. Yes, vinegar is an acid too, but so is ammonia. So I prefer the vinegar much better when I'm using it on a panel. But there's little spatters of solder. But this will get a good cleaning, and I'll put it in a brass frame, and that's going to be all she wrote. Thanks for watching.